Welcome to Shearers on Norton. Jeff Apter is here today to talk to us about his latest book, Chasing the Dragon, The Life and Death of Marc Hunter, the frontman of Dragon.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
So tell me, Jeff, what was your favourite bit about researching Dragon and Marc Hunter?
Favourite bit? That's an interesting question because it was a fairly heavy experience, really, given that he died quite young and he lived this really quite blazing lifestyle for a long time and got involved heavily in drugs and decadence and everything that was sitting in the 70s. I think the favourite experience was going to New Zealand, going back to his family home, meeting his mother, spending time with her and being welcomed, because quite often, even writing authorised books, people aren't always welcoming because sometimes it can reveal too much about them. But in his case, and his mother had every reason not to be welcoming. She's had 4 sons, 3 of them die as adults. Real tragic life. And yet she could play the victim card, and she's completely one of the most life-embracing people I've ever met. And even in her 80s, she's incredibly vital and energetic, and she's very supportive. So meeting her, going to the family home, and getting a real taste of actually feeling some of the and tasting some of the environment in which Marc and his brothers were raised was great. It was really helpful. The book, it gave it a lot of colour, and I think it actually brought to life a lot of the observations that have been given to me in interviews. I could actually go and get my feet in the dirt and get the mud between my toes at the Hunter household and really feel what it was like to be raised in this part of New Zealand. Yeah.
That sounds great. Does she understand how significant Dragon were and how much loved Marc Hunter was?
Yeah, look, Marc's mother, Boy, and his father, Stuart, although they weren't musicians, they were amateur musicians at best, they're incredibly supportive. Even later in their life, when Dragon had been around for 10 years or more, they get pulled aside, and they lived in a quite a conservative, middle-class environment. And they'd be asked, so when are your boys going to get proper jobs? And they'd say, they have proper jobs, they're musicians. So they were really supportive. There's some great stories. They had a family band when they were growing up, and they lived on quite a big property, and they'd play on the top paddock, to play away. And the phone rang one day, and Marc's mother thought, oh no, it's the neighbours, were too loud. And it was Mrs. Carter from across the paddock. She said, I love that song you just played, can you do it again? So, there's a real nice sense of history there. And obviously it was a very different environment to the Sydney that Dragon found themselves embroiled in a few years later after they left home.
And you were here not so long ago in the Bookshop to help Casey Chambers launch the book that she and you wrote together.
She didn't need me.
No, I'm sure she knows how to handle a crowd.
Yeah, she's great, yeah.
And I'm just wondering about the music biography fixation that you have, because you've written 10 of them now.
Yeah, it's like a tattoo, you just can't get rid of it, No, my background is in music writing. I worked for Rolling Stone for a long time. I've written a lot. Actually, it was a mixture of 2 things. I wanted to write, and I was a big music fan. Not a musician, but just a big music fan. And gradually, in my 20s and early 30s, I found a way to combine the 2. Worked for Rolling Stone for several years, and really got to meet a lot of the people that I've subsequently written about. So it's kind of like a natural thing to do for me. Never had any aspirations to be a musician. See the musician's life is rather taxing and a 24/7 kind of environment, whereas I'm lucky I can escape and get back to my little darkened room and tap away at the keyboard. They're never out of the spotlight, so I don't envy that, but I admire their struggles in a lot of cases, and I'm drawn to stories with a fair bit of tension, if you like. Casey, although I guess she's known as Australia's sweetheart in some ways, as her book revealed, there was a lot more drama in her life than anybody knew. So I really gravitate to the type of stories that have the same kind of ebb and flow as be it a novel, or some kind of a typical narrative, if you like. Something with those roller coaster ride, human emotions and stuff. The music is kind of important, but not absolutely essential. So I try to write music books that aren't necessarily about music, if that makes any sense.
Perfect sense. And what are you working on next?
I am doing a book on Shirley Strawn from Skyhooks. And again, he interested me because I wanted to know how someone could go from music to television to radio, and to, what was he at the end? Chippy on Our House. I wanted to know how a guy could gravitate from one very different medium to another. And his parents were quite supportive again. They actually asked me to do the book. So I'm working on that. That'll come out sometime next year.
Oh, fantastic. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you for having me back.